I'm not even putting any stock in this individual reset. I'm putting my stock in, you're going to be blocking for the next 10 seconds and it's going to feel like a nightmare. Oh God, it's high. Oh, this other side. Oh no. And then before long, you're going to crack. So then it's like, okay, I've always had the integrity with the gift, but when do the opportunities fully come forward? So I said, I'm fasting for a year, and if God doesn't open up some door or some opportunity regarding music, then it's time for me to quit music. And then I'm just gonna never do music again. Hey, you wanna play for 50? You wanna play for 40? Whatever. And I'm just doing that. That is literally the only thing that I do. I don't care about the actual tournament. Do you know that I never registered for an Evo in advance?
That's the thing where I'm so impressed, and I'm glad you're in the spaces, because keeping all the information you have and then forming that into a debate skill set is such a mind-blowing thing to me. Like, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do what you do at the level you do it.
You know what's really funny? There's this guy named Pons, and he said that. He said, he was like, yeah, I think your gift is synthesis. And I didn't even know what that was at the time. Like, I know what synthesizing is, like, from certain ways, but I didn't know.
Right, but in the context of debate.
Yes. One of the
bringing those ideas to like an effective
conclusion. Right. That's synthesis by definition, and I never heard that definition. I'd always heard of synthesizing as like creating a fake thing or fabricate whatever. And so it was like, yeah, no, bringing disparate things together into a concise or logical conclusion. That is literally what I do. But it's not even just with that. Even musically, it is literal synthesis. That's how I perform, right? I didn't get lessons. I just learned just a bunch of
completely self-taught
stuff. Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
And so
I remember you said you play for your church. That's incredible,
bro. I've played for 4 churches, and I've played at like museums. We just played Maxine Waters' like election party.
Wow.
I'm gonna be playing the DNC actually in August, which is crazy.
That's incredible.
Yeah, no, it's nuts. But like, synthesis is it. Like, legitimately, I've just always existed where I like gravitated to anything musical, and I would be watching things and then picking up like little pieces of things. So when I'm performing to this day, it's just me literally drawing all of the various tactics and things that I've learned from other songs and other techniques from other things, and just making it into this performance. And so it's like that is literally like everything for me. It's synthesis. And so when we're debating, that is exactly what it is. It's like, okay, as we're debating, and I think of all of the things that are connected and related, like from studies and different arguments I've had and different analogies, and then like I'm pulling them in all together while the debate is happening, because that's just literally how my brain naturally works. It is genuinely, I think, the gift that I got, because I always knew
it is a gift. It's impressive to watch, because the speed of things are happening, and you're also you're essentially attacking someone and being attacked. So you might hear someone try to pull you off into a tangent, and then you'll recognize that while also keeping the idea you had and the point you wanted to make, and then it's an incredible thing to watch.
For sure. I think, man, but growing up, I always thought music was my gift. I just thought, that's what it was, right? And then later on, and scholastics, right? Because I was like really, really gifted scholastically. And then eventually I started realizing it's not that music is my gift. My gift is synthesis of information. Because even scholastically, it's when you're reading a book and you're picking up all these little details. When it comes time to taking the test, you're intuitively going, okay, these things make sense based off of this. I was always terrible. I never, ever did homework. There were plenty of classes where I aced the final, had the highest grade in the final, but never did a single piece of classwork or a single piece of homework. That happened all the time.
You have ADD or ADHD?
I'm pretty sure I do. I'm almost positive. I've never been tested, but nigga.
That sounds like a classic.
Nigga, it's OD. It's OD. And you know what's crazy? Man, this is a tangent, but I'm sorry, I've got to go here. I thought I didn't for so many years. I always said I have the opposite of ADD. I used to tell people I have reverse ADD, because whereas ADD people typically were growing up, it was about the kids who like had infinite amounts of energy and could just they couldn't sit in class, and they were just always like jumping topics and jumping whatever. Mine's the opposite, where it's like, once I'm doing something, I literally forget that I need to use the restroom. I forget that I need to eat. I don't realize I'm thirsty. I don't realize that I'm tired. I'm just doing the thing. So I was like, I have the opposite of ADD. When I focus on something, nothing else exists in the world. And then I learned about this thing called hyperfocus, because, you know, as time goes on, they've like expounded on what ADD is in ADHD, and they started realizing that it's just the inability to regulate focus. And part of regulation could be limiting certain focuses on certain things to be aware of other things as well. And so when I learned about how hyper-focus greatly impacts people with ADHD, it's just a different type of expression of it. I'm like, oh, then I absolutely have that. And so, as some of the worst that I've ever seen in any person, it's served me to a benefit. When
I was just about to ask, I don't want to bring a tangent to fighting games, but I know you're an execution beast. Like I went and watched some tournaments you were in, and I was like, this is incredible what I'm watching. Like, I'm not a 2D guy, so I'm already like, the execution is already just blowing my mind. But you stood out even in that context.
100%.
Insane. I was like, that probably went directly to that. Like, I remember you explaining your story where you would just sit for hours, dedicated to getting the combo down, getting like you know. I think there was a button change, like there was a dash you could change it to any button you wanted or something along those lines. I don't play Marvel, so I can't remember exactly. But you know that you explained the story how you were just sitting there and you were doing this one thing for hours and hours and hours. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't.
Yeah,
I'll get distracted. I'll be like, I want to do something else.
I didn't know that was a me thing. I didn't know that was an ADD thing, but it is an ADD thing. It's just, that was mine, the hyper focus. Like, and so because of that, I put more time. I'm saying, like, in that video, I wasn't gassing when I'm saying I genuinely believe I put more time in training mode than any other human being in the world for Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
That's not easy at all. I used to do the tournaments for SoCal. My biggest struggle, like, I could play you all day. I can do that all day. But if you're telling me I need to sit and just look at the numbers, for hours, or just practice this combo for hours, practice this situation for hours, I couldn't do it. That was my ceiling. That's why I hit a hard ceiling. Like, that's it. I would say right under that where you reached that top player, for a phrase, top player level. I was like, that's that tier below, and that was the thing that I think kept me from making that leap.
Sure, you would have needed to have been around a person who was also really, really good that pushes you into doing it.
Right.
Like, for me, again, I think, so even with like the piano, there was a point in time where I was putting in 10 hours a day into the piano when I was a kid. But I just didn't want to do anything else, right? So then it was just every day, just focused. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna learn this thing. So much stuff is so intuitive for me, and it's just natural. Like, I'm not even thinking about it. It's just, of course I can do this. Like, what? Someone tells me, can you do this thing? And it's like, yeah, I got it. And I'm doing it. And then I don't realize, well, now I do, but at the time when I used to do these things, I didn't realize this is just a product of how much time it just felt like, of course it's natural. And I didn't realize like how much that practice was just showing up in my adult life. And so I learned that discipline on piano first, where it's like, I'm just gonna put in this time. I want to learn this skill, and right now my fingers can't do it, and I'm not gonna do anything until I get it. And I remember getting frustrated, like, dang, I want to get up, but it's like, no, I'm going to learn this. I don't want to not be able to do this. And so then I would do it and do it and do it until I could finally do it. And then it's like, okay, now I get this crazy sense of relief, and I think, okay, that's it, now I can rest. And then I've discovered very shortly after, wait, now I have to learn this thing. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it all over again. And that would just be daily. Whereas most of the time people tell you like, oh, at least make your child practice an hour of piano a day. And it's like, my mother in my entire life never told me go practice, not once. I just did it every day because I wanted to. It was a thing. So when I'm learning fighting games and I'm trying to get this stupid combo and it's like, I can't get it. It's frustrating. It's like, oh, no. I'm just not going to do anything else today. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to do that. In Marvel 3, it was the ROM. I remember at one point deciding I'm just going to practice the ROM the entire day. And so I woke up, I got a bowl of cereal, turned on my game, and then ROM'd for like 4 hours.
Now, ROMing, remind me what ROMing. I remember you talked about this in the story.
ROMing is...
Yeah, I'm a 3D guy. I don't know nothing.
That is the standard combo. So in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, it was the standard combo. For Magneto, it was his infinite, where you hit them in the air, whatever, you bring them down, whatever, you have them like at around normal jump height, and you super jump and you hit them twice going up, and then you air dash down and hit them twice going down. And then you just repeat that process, and it keeps them about even. You know what I mean? And you're adjusting the entire time. If they get really low, then you need to hit them sooner on the way down, right? If they're getting really high, then you delay when you dash down. So there's a bunch of...
So it's not even just execution; it's also timing, and it changes
and adjusting
depending on
your eyesight. And So when that was like, it was much easier in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and then in Marvel 3, it was like, oh, you're doing it with just a fierce punch. But it's the exact same concept. Super jump, hit them on the way up, air dash down, hit them on the way down. And you try to keep them as leveled as possible while you're carrying them to the corner. And I remember one day it was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. And so I woke up, had a bowl of cereal, sat at the computer, sat at the TV, and just did that for like about 3 hours, maybe 4 hours. And then it was like, okay, I'm gonna go eat lunch or whatever. And I got up to do something else and like use the restroom, shower, all that. And then it was like, okay, and then get right back on the TV, like after like maybe an hour break, and then just go back and do it again, and just did it.
That sounds so insane to me. I can't even imagine doing it. I can't even imagine it.
Yeah. Again, for me, it didn't feel crazy. Like, because I would set like little baby goals all the time, where it'd be like,
oh, that's smart. That's smart.
I want to do it now. I'm going to do it 4 times in a row, right? And it's like, when I set that goal for myself, now it's not even about the fact that I'm doing this combo. It's about the accumulation, right? Like, or the consistency. I did it. Dang, I got it 3 times and I didn't get it a 4th time. Then, or I would imagine these scenarios, like if someone came in right now and was just like, can you do this combo? And it's like, okay, right now I have to do it right now. It's performance time. And so then it's like, okay, can I do it right now? And then on command, I need to do it.
Great mental practice for tournaments as well.
1,000,000,000%. And doing all those kinds of things, creating that whatever, it just gets easier and easier and easier. And then also I've realized that when you're doing something like that, I don't focus on, oh, I messed up this time. Oh, I got it this time. Oh, I messed up this time. It's really just about the idea of, if I continue doing this, it's going to become easier and easier until eventually it's second nature. And it got to a point where, like in vanilla on Tube TV, because we started playing on like Asus and those things have lag. On Tube TV, I genuinely was not dropping any combos. And like, you'll hear it in commentary. Like while I'm playing, you'll hear people say stuff like, oh yeah, Fanatiq, Fanatiq's execution is on another level. And it was. Or if I drop something, you'll hear them say, oh, that's a rare drop from Fanatiq. Because when I'm on it, I'm not dropping nothing, because I live in training mode.
I can tell you, even for someone who, like, I understand like fighting games generally, even as a 3D player primarily, even that I can tell the difference from what you were doing just watching your match to what every like, I watched the entire top 8 of, I don't remember, I think it was the one you talked about specifically,
ECT4,
when you were the one where you said you changed to a fight stick mid tournament, or I think you wanted to prove that you can be just as effective. You can do it with the fight stick. You're not like a pad. You're not carried by pad. Yeah. That tournament I watched, you stood out as I watched everyone else. I was like, it looks like you're playing a different game.
Yeah. I was, though. Like that, man. We're really going into these fighting game things. Look, I was.
I can talk about fighting games all day.
Same. Look, because I was in training mode and I learned the way I did, and I was not in those hubs, I did play a different game, right? And for me, I had learned, especially if you start watching the very end of Marvel, I say the end is like when Marvel 3 came out, because pretty much every relevant player quit Marvel 2 and went to Marvel 3.
Infinite didn't do nothing.
Right. So for me, when Marvel 2 died, like if you look at the end of that, bro, I wasn't even playing the same game that I had been playing 3 years prior. I'd like discovered a very specific reset that I realized this is a 50-50. If they get hit, they die. And so then it's like, okay, I can do like a 1 in 4. I could do a 1 in 4 that I have to do twice, and then I'll kill them, right? But it's like, I can do that, or I can do this 50-50 that I only need to hit them twice. And so I was like, I just like the idea of like only needing to hit you twice. And so then that was it. I started doing that, which kind of broke the game for me. Also, if I hit Sentinel, like if I hit Sentinel first, it's like he's literally just going to die. He doesn't even get a chance to play the game. And the game started feeling solved to me, because it felt like, if I touch you, I don't even have to think about what I'm going to do anymore. The game, it just plays out the way it's supposed to play. And so I remember falling out of love with it, but I was playing that style. Everyone else was still doing like reset, doing all these weird things. And it was like, no. If you get touched, count yourself out for this game. We're going to the next round. And that, you just don't see people doing that. They still don't do that reset. But I just had a total different mindset, because my mindset was rooted in training mode. Other people were rooted in, how do I play against these human beings? And then because I was up in training mode so much, then I had all of these block strings and like rush down strings and all this stuff that the whole purpose was, I'm not even trying to hit you. I'm not trying to open you up with this first reset or this first rush down or this first low. I just want you to block. And once you're blocking, I just want to keep going and keep the pressure and just keep going and keep going until something eventually will hit. I don't have to do everything as fast as possible. I'm not even putting any stock in this individual reset. I'm putting my stock in, you're going to be blocking for the next 10 seconds and it's going to feel like a nightmare. Just oh God, it's high. Oh, this other side. Oh no. And then before long, you're going to crack. You'll either get desperate and throw out a button. You'll get desperate and call your assist. You'll get desperate and try to super jump. Or you're just gonna eventually get opened up, and something's gonna happen. You're gonna get hit, and I'm gonna convert that hit into killing you, and the game is over. It wasn't even about like I need to be the fastest, even though I was really, really stupid fast because of training. It was just I just need to know how to.
I just gotta hit you.
Make you block.
I just gotta figure out when the mistake is coming.
It's gonna come. It's gonna. And I'm not gonna make a mistake. And as long as I don't make a mistake, you lost.
And that's when you're talking about speed just now. When I watched Marvel, like all of you guys were just you're doing that same thing I do, like in a 3D game, right? You know, we're solving. It's just solving problems. And when you see the mistake, I know I've seen this problem before. I know how to solve it.
Yep.
And you're doing that at a fast pace where so many interactions could go wrong. So many things could go wrong. So many unique situations could come up. And when you talk earlier, you talk about solving the game. Like you practice so much, you solved it. You did this in an era where there wasn't as much. I'm sure there was some like communication and stuff, but sharing that knowledge and like, okay, let's say I just started playing. I know all the combos. Someone's figured that out for me. So I know the tech traps. I know the punish. Someone's figured out. You played in that era where it was you got to find that, and if they didn't know, that's just what it was.
100%, bro. You know what
and also that affects you as well. If someone comes, with some crazy low tier character you thought was meaningless, and then suddenly they're doing something you're like, what?
Yep.
I don't understand.
Billion%.
What a game.
So that was another thing is I watched match videos all day in that game too. If you were to show me a match between two people, one of them needed to be an MSP because I didn't watch like Santhrax versus Santhrax. I didn't care to watch that. Like that I wasn't even learning anything from that. But if it was an MSP player versus any other team, like MSP mirror match, MSP versus Sentinel, versus Santhrax, MSP versus Cyclops, like whatever the team was, if an MSP was involved, I was watching that match. And so I used to spend all day on Preppy's website watching them all too, so that if you were to like just take away the names,
I missed those eras where you just have like a community member run site, and that's where everyone's meeting up. Man, those are the days.
But
this year kind of changed that, but hey.
it did. But at the same time, look. So long story short, I watched all of those to where I knew who was playing based off of the way that the person moved, and if it was an MSP match, I had already seen it. I would be able to tell you, oh, this is this match, and I remember it, right? Because it was just that's all I focused on during that time. And so when I was playing a person, I knew their tendencies. So I would be playing up against like someone like, I don't know, Demon Hero or somebody, and it's like, oh, I already know what you do. I know what your answer is here, and I know how to beat that answer here. So then it's like I was playing a game against these people with knowledge of who they are and what their mistakes were and what their whatever habits were, and no one had any of that information on me because I wasn't in the hubs. So I'm this unknown guy that they don't even know, most of whom don't even know my name, and now I'm at the top 8 at Evolution, right? And it's like insane. And you don't know who I am, whereas every other player, literally every other player that's up there, not only are they known, everyone has played against them. They've been like around the different tournaments, not just to EVO. They've been to like ECC and NEC and MWC, all these different tournaments, just all these series. They've been there. The community knows them, right? And it's just like, I'm a guy that you don't know, you've never heard of. I didn't train with all of you guys. I didn't develop my skill with all of you guys, and I'm definitely on your level. And if any of you play me in money matches, like in lone sets, like 1st to 10s, I'm washing you. And so it was just a different experience. Nigga, that was my literal life. That's how I made a living. That's how I ate.
My goodness.
Yeah, but that was synthesis too, because I'm telling you, I picked up all of the tendencies of all the people, bro. Like I knew MSP. I mean, I knew Sumighty's like habits, and I like studied. Okay, this is what he does here. When I saw Yipes play the game, changed my whole world. It was like, whoa, this is a total different style than what Sue was doing. It was totally different than what Justin did when he used to play MSP. It was totally different than Chris Schmidt. Everyone was different, and so I was picking up all of the MSPs from everyone. Sanford has a really, really good MSP. Different. I think the fastest MSP in existence is nobody's gonna believe me when I say this. It's Josh Wigfall. Nobody is faster than that nigga. Now his consistency isn't there. He's gonna get a billion hits and then just not capitalize. He doesn't close, but he's going. He moves in a way unlike any other MSP in existence. So I was just picking up all the little different stuff. And so then now when I'm playing, it was different. It was different. I just had all the information. And so then when I'm playing in a match, I know, oh, this is what I do here. This is what whatever. Like the game would be solved. And when I would train people like Knives, I remember there were times I just don't think people saw the game that way. And so then we got to a point when I finally like started really thinking he's like capable. I remember I would pause the game and I'd explain it to him. Like, look, at this point, because of where you are, you can't call your assist. Because if you call your assist, then this happens, so on and so forth. So then now, since you can't call your assist, I get to call my assist, which puts you in the string, put you in block, and so then and then eventually you get opened up. And so then once I open you up, I have two choices. I could try to kill you right here, but if I kill you right here, then right? Then your next character comes in with the full life, and I don't want to try to kill your character, the next character, because I have to kill that character twice. Otherwise, what I can do is get you really low, I snap you out. Now this new character comes in, he's already bleeding. If I reset him if I guard break him because of how low his health is, he's dead. So one touch is all I need to kill him, and I get that in a guard break. And so then if he dies, then the next character comes in, but then now you have this other character who I snapped in his position who only has this much health because he was an assist, right? And so you're playing this character with full life, but then you don't really have an assist because if you call this assist, he's already too low. So instead of killing here, I should snap. And so I would break those things down. And at first he would be kind of resistant. Then eventually he was like, oh yeah. So instead of me killing, and so I'm telling you, when I saw the Matrix, it was just like, it was just on another level. And so when I started training with Knives, like long term, it got to a point where eventually it was like, I can't beat him on command. I knew, then he's at that level because I just felt
that's a dream to have a training partner like that.
Man, you can only hope.
Because you have no choice but to figure out something else now. He knows everything. I've given him the gift. I give him everything I know.
Yep.
Solving that problem. I wish I had that. I didn't have that in Soul Calibur, and that's what I would prefer over sitting there by myself just for hours like you're talking about. Like, I'm gonna do this insanely hard combo over and over and over, and I'm gonna practice this insane specific situation over and over and over again. Yeah, that sounds crazy to me. Now, a question I have: when you were explaining that situation, is that something that you developed simply from training mode? Like, you just sat there, like, okay, let me think about the interaction that would happen here, the risk reward versus killing him now versus leaving him alive so I can have an advantageous situation. Is that stuff that that was just training? Like, you just figured that out?
No, it was obsession.
Okay, the Kobe factor.
Maybe, bro. Back then, I'm not kidding you. I would go to pray, like at church, and while I would be praying, I would be imagining resets and combos and nonsense. And because of back then the way the thing that I was a part of was so cultish, at that point I remember starting to think like, oh, this thing is like I had to quit, like I have to stop, because I used to get addicted to everything, and so then it would take over to where I wasn't sleeping at night because like literally I couldn't turn that off. I didn't know how to stop thinking about those things. So I used forever got such terrible sleep. It literally, if I'm driving, the whole time I'm driving, I'm just imagining reset strings or guard break strings or scenario situation, how to respond to things, and all. Like, it was just literally all I could think about was just that. And so when I would be playing, after playing so much and watching so many situations, and I'm watching a video and I see a person and I'm like pausing, okay, well, what should happen? What would be the optimal outcome here? Listening to commentary, just all of that stuff. You're just accumulating knowledge, and until after a while, you've done this so frequently. I've been playing this same game for over 10 years, and I mean like hardcore. It's like, yeah, man, of course I've thought of it before. We've been in these same situations a million times. Oh, that's another thing. I didn't play any other. I wasn't a team switcher. I only played Magneto. I played MSP. I never entered a tournament. I played Magneto Stormtron Team Mix-Up, rest in peace. I played that like as a counter pick a few times too. 95% of my tournaments I only played MSP, and so or MST. So I only saw the game under one lens. And so then it was so much easier for me to understand the game when you've played a billion times against a billion different people, and you just,
man, I can talk about fighting games literally forever.
100%. I'm gonna continue that story too, because I ended it at EVO 2007.
Right, there was more there. I was like, what do we get in the next part?
Nigga,
that was so entertaining. Was this the era with the money match? The one that I've heard about. I don't know the details. It's like the most money, like the most money match.
Yeah, that was 2010. So that literally was the final year of Marvel 2. Marvel 3 came out, I want to say early 2011, or was it super duper late 2010?
Now I don't know because I am not a Marvel player. I played it a bit, but I'm not. I do not remember.
Let me see.
I stuck with the Soul Calibur guys, and we were our own niche group over there.
Yeah, it was early 2011, so it came out February 2011. But we got a leak of the game. I want to say in December of 2011. So December of 2010. So I want to say So my money match that happened in 2010. Like that was the final year for Marvel 2. Because once Marvel 3 came out, all of it switched over. All the relevant people. I didn't even go in that whole recount thing. I didn't go into the Tone Money match, which is its own era. I didn't go into like seasons beatings. I didn't go into Evo 2008 or what happened Evo 2009. The release of Marvel 2 on Xbox. There's just so much more. And then of course when I get into the new era, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, like getting fourth at my very first major that I ever entered for the game, and then eventually winning Wednesday Night Fights 3 consecutive seasons with Ultimate, and I did a lot in that game. Eventually getting the second best sponsorship or the third best sponsorship in the entire community. Traveling around the country 20 times in a year, all these different things, winning majors, all that. There's so much with that era too. Because the story of my journey up to 2007, most of that's my personal journey, where it's like me training, me learning with this guy, me whatever, my own personal thing. The Marvel 3 era was all public because it was a different community at this point. I had to go to the weeklies. I had to go, I'm traveling to LA for Wednesday Night Fights. There's a bunch. Yeah. There's a bunch there. So yeah.
Now, not to go on another tangent, but what was it like? So a similar thing happened that you explained, like from Marvel 2 to Marvel 3. A lot of guys just didn't go over. This happened from 4 to 5 for Soul Calibur, and then again on 5 to 6, and I made my aggregates from 5 to 6, where it just feels like a different game. When you're that part of your brain, like I was definitely not as obsessed as you. I definitely a lot of my life was just thinking about Soul Calibur, just taking up so much of what I am. When that part ends, how did you not only replace it, but just utilize that energy for something else? So that was something that took me a while to figure out, because it sounds crazy. It's just a video game, maybe to some people, but this is really is in your life, when you're that when you want to go travel and play those great players, that it's kind of like a drug, that high level drug, if you will. And replacing that, how did you find something else to use that energy for?
Okay, so for me, all right, I looked at, from the very beginning, I always knew that fighting games, music was my passion. From 3 years old, I had a gift with music, okay? So there was never a doubt in my brain that I was going to be a musician. That was my identity. So even while I was obsessed with fighting games, music was always there. That was how I made a living at one point. It was my first job when I hit 18 years old, when I first got my car. And then I started traveling to FFA multiple times a week. That was with the money I got from my music gigs. That's how I paid for the arcade. That's how I paid for my car. That's how I paid for everything, right? I knew I was going to switch over to music. In fact, in the beginning, I was doing all the fighting game stuff and making all those things work, but it wasn't lucrative like I wanted it to be in the beginning. And I remember at one point wanting to quit before I got sponsored. And I remember I'd put in all this energy into trying to get sponsored, trying to make it work, and it wasn't happening. And I remember feeling constantly am I supposed to be doing music, or should I be pursuing fighting games right now? What should I be doing? Final round had came that year, and I didn't go to final round because I had won a talent show, and then the talent show ended up having me perform at the African American History Museum in Los Angeles. And so I didn't go to final round specifically because I knew I was going to that. Music was always going to be a priority. I didn't go to seasons beatings of that same year or the next year, or maybe it was the same year. But either way, I didn't go to seasons beatings for Marvel 3 Vanilla, the last, last Vanilla tournament, because I was at the airport. I ended up missing my flights. They were putting me onto the next flight, and so I was going to catch the next flight. And then while I was there, I ended up getting into a conversation with a guy named Kevin Stratton, who ends up being the producer of the Los Angeles Music Awards, the LA Music Awards.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I was going to
Does magical stuff just happen to people in California like that? I've heard so many stories of people from California just running into people, just hey, that's Brad Pitt right over there.
Yeah, I don't know. It probably does. It happened for me in that way. Everything that ever I've gotten, to be honest, it feels like has been outside of my control. I might have done all this work preparing, but I don't do the work preparing thinking this is what this is going to lead to. I just do the work preparing because I just want to be good at whatever it is that I'm doing, whatever I'm studying, whatever. And so in this situation, I'm like going to sell him. I see him wearing headphones. I end up having a conversation with him about sound and music and so on and so forth. And that's when he tells me I was a manager of Toto, the people that make the song Africa.
What?
And so I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like, I'm a musician. So he's like, hey, would you want to come to the LA Music Awards? It's a black tie event. You got a tuxedo? And I'm like, I can get one. So then I'm like, sponsor, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it season meeting. I'm sorry, I missed my flight. And yeah, I don't want to reschedule. It's too late. And so they're like, all right, don't even trip. So then I just don't go to that tournament because I end up going to the LA Music Awards, renting a tuxedo, and just doing this whole thing. I didn't even have a car at the time. I remember I just borrowed my mother's car. But either way, my point being, like, music was always a priority, without a doubt. And so when I quit fighting games, there was always that thing of should I be doing music or whatever. I started having a bad run with Ultimate because I didn't like Ultimate, and I remember deciding I don't know if I'm supposed to do music or for fighting games anymore. And I went to NCR and we lost. It was in January. I had lost. I didn't do as well as I wanted to. It was on PS3 and I was pissed. But either way, I still just didn't perform well because I just wasn't practiced up because I just was playing a lot of League of Legends and other stuff at the time. And I remember...
That game will get you.
Nigga. I remember having a conversation with Knives on the way home and I said, maybe God doesn't want me to play fighting games. Maybe it's time for me to pursue music. And I was like, I don't know which one he wants me to do. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to this new tournament. There was a tournament called St. Valentine's Massacre. It was thrown together by the Traveling Circus. And I said, if I don't do well at that tournament, then I'm going to take that as a sign that God wants me to do music and he doesn't want me to play fighting games. And so I was like, that was what I decided. Because I've always been like, I'm always asking God to lead me, guide my footsteps, to tell me what I should be doing, whatever. And I was like, I don't have any way of doing it. So this is what I'm... So...
Right. Just a quick tangent, just to pause you. I'd love to have a conversation, maybe a more private one, where we talk about stuff like that. Like discerning pathways, specifically, we're Christians. I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. More private, because it's, it could be more personal. But,
okay. Whatever you want. Well, I'm 100% down for that anytime. I love talking about my faith in particular.
Me too. I love it. Love God.
So I was like, that was my rule. God's gonna tell me which one to do. Okay. So I go home, I train a little bit, but I don't train as much as I wanted to because life happened. And so then we go to this tournament, St. Valentine's Massacre. I go through and I make it all the way to top 8 winners, doing good. And then I end up winning the tournament. And it wasn't like there was nobody there. Like it was me and Justin Wong in the grand finals. I had to take out, I want to say, Viscount. I want to say, yeah, but either way, there were quite a few numbers of top players there. I won it. I remember, so I'm like winning and I'm on cloud 9. Like, wow, I won this tournament. And then my friend Danny at the time had got me the sponsorship with 86, me and Knives. And it was like our first first tournament with them, with that branding. And so it's like, now I'm sponsored. That's crazy that happened. I just won a major. Like that's, so I'm like, everything is like whatever happening. And I remember thinking to myself during that time, like just feeling on cloud 9. And then like, as I'm walking around, Knives comes up to me and he says, hey, so this is obviously a sign, right? And I go, what do you mean? And he said, you said if you did well at this tournament, that means God wants you to keep playing fighting games. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had completely forgot that I'd said that. But I'm 100% like, yes, I did say that. And I won. So I believe God wants me to continue playing fighting games. Time goes on.
Now, what year was this tournament?
2012.
Okay.
February of 2012. And so then I keep on going. By June of 2012, I'm now sponsored by PDP, which is, they generated $250 million a year in revenue. Crazy electronics company that made the controller that I had been using, not even knowing was their controller. I just used this random controller from GameStop. And they're like, we're coming out with a new series called Afterglow. And we want you guys to be the Afterglow Elite and to promote that brand. But the other controller I had already been using, I had already been using the PDP controller. I had been using just a GameStop, whatever, but PDP was the #1 third-party peripheral company in the world.
The pre-Power era.
Yes. Power, man, I have stories about Power A and PDP.
Oh boy,
they are #1. I'm saying I'm not with PDP anymore. They were our #1 competitor. Power A literally went to the manufacturer that PDP made, like to make our controller, and then paid that manufacturer to generate a controller identical to our controller, but with their branding. That's what Power A did. And they ended up stealing our controller from the Chinese manufacturing company. And so now that's how Power A's controller ended up happening. So they were our #1 controller. So when we were doing like E3, PDP had their section, Power A had their section, and I remember like they were just like, yeah, they're just literally stealing our style. They're just a rip-off third whatever. But I mean, if you think about it, PDP was a third-party peripheral company, so they were like making knockoffs from, you know, from Sony,
Xbox or PlayStation,
or exactly. So in the same way, how Pelican, PDP, by the way, I don't know if you know this, was formerly Pelican.
Okay.
Great rebranding, because everyone remembers Pelican versus Mad Cats. So now instead we have Power A versus PDP. It's the same kind of concept. After that, now I'm sponsored. Now I'm getting the money match. Now I'm going to freaking ECT. Now all of those things happen because I decided, okay, well, God, obviously you want me to play, so I'm going to continue playing, and I'm going to try to put in time and dedicate and so on and so forth. I started training and doing better, and yeah, the rest is history. It was crazy. It was crazy.
Dude, like I said, I can talk for fighting games for my entire life. We could never stop.
Okay, so then to bring it home to answer your question, when I finally felt it was time for me to retire from fighting games, I didn't know what exactly to do. I felt like a fish out of water, but I needed to pursue music, and I didn't know how to pursue music, and I did all these other things, and doing the Infinite Crisis experience and the People's Hearthstone show with like Tezande, and just doing all these other things. And then finally in 2015 or 2016, I remember saying like, okay, I'm fasting this year. I'm going to spend an entire year fasting. If I don't get something, if life doesn't work out for me in some way, then that means, with music, then that means that obviously God doesn't want me to do music either. Because I felt like I've dedicated my life to music, and I felt like I never wanted to use the gift that God gave me in a bad way. So then it was like, I've walked away from certain opportunities because they were like literally satanic. And I was just, I'm not doing that, right? I'm not going to misuse whatever. So then it's like, okay, I've always had the integrity with the gift, but when do the opportunities fully come forward? So I said, I'm fasting for a year, and if God doesn't open up some door or some opportunity regarding music, then it's time for me to quit music. And then I'm just gonna never do music again. Which was a crazy, crazy thing, because music has been such an insane part of my identity for my entire life, in my personal life anyway. And it was just like, no, I'm willing to do this, because I can't keep living in limbo and not knowing how my gift is going to manifest and so on and so forth. By the end of that year, found this amazing band, forced me to grow, found a new church, helped me get rid of the old cult mentality that I had before, eventually found a second church, ended up getting the girlfriend that I got at the time, and just started producing, and just life opened up for me by the end of that year. It was late in the year, it was like in November, because if I didn't finish, I was going to quit. And so then everything happened in November. It was crazy. And again, it wasn't a situation that I made happen. It was my brother working at Northrop ended up like talking to a guy from his job who happened to be a musician, was part of an organization, and was like, hey, and he just was talking me up to the dude, and the dude was like, I mean, he's young though, is he like a partying type? Because all these dudes is older, 50, 60, seasoned musicians.
Yeah, that time is done. They were tired.
Right. And they were like, does this nigga, is he like a party kid? Like, what kind of person is he? And he's like, no, he's not that type of person. He's a Christian. That's literally what my brother told him. He doesn't do no clubbing. He doesn't do no partying. That's not him. And so he was just like, okay, we want to meet him. Went to the thing, auditioned. They were like, yeah, we love you. Are you ready to join? I'm like, I'm in there. And from there, just everything took off. Everything took off. So there was a big period in between where I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what the answer was, and I was lost. And I genuinely believe all those opportunities opened up for me. And so then that's where the answer came. Because almost everything I do, there's no concrete way. Like if I got like a degree in like engineering, it's like, okay, I'll work for the water company, or I'll work for, Edison, or I'll just find a person that needs an engineer and I'll work for them, right? I have the degree that says I can learn and apply it to whatever requires this. I don't have a degree. In fact, on paper, I've never been educated on music. I'm self-taught. So how am I going to let you know what I'm capable of? You don't, unless some sort of way I meet you. If you get me in front of a piano and I show you like, hey, like I can show you, like it'd be like, think of some obscure artist, pop artist from the 70s, and just pick a number 1 through 10, and I'll pull up their album, and whatever number you say, it's gonna obviously be a song I've never heard before, and I'm gonna listen to it right in front of your face, and then I'm gonna play it right back to you as soon as I'm done listening to it. And it's like, wow. Okay, so then I do that, I listen to the thing and say, okay, I got it, then I stop it and then play it like flawlessly, like as if I've been playing it my whole life, and it's like, this is what I can do. No person who's really a musician, whatever, encounters that and goes, oh yeah, you're just another musician. It's like, no. You've never met a person with an ear that can do it to this degree in your life. So it's because of that, that's what opens the doors. But I don't have it on paper. So how do I get in front of those people? Where do people learn that I can do that? It really for me, what I lean into is God, and just feeling like those doors have to open. Right. I didn't know that I was going to be a debater. I didn't know anything about politics. I didn't study politics. I knew I think I'm pretty, like, always been logically oriented, but I didn't know that was going to be a thing. Hell, I was quiet. I didn't share anything. Really? Bro, if you go back to the FGC era before 2007, they didn't know my name. Again, they didn't know who I was. I had been playing fighting games since 2002, like at FFA, at the arcade. They didn't know me because I was so low key. I just did not have, I just was very quiet and reserved and stuck to myself. I learned to be more outgoing from fighting games and stuff. So it's just, no one knew. Most people thought I was an idiot. There's this guy named Arthur.
But that's also common with quiet people. For some reason, people assume that they don't know what they're talking about because they don't have anything to say. But sometimes you have stuff to say, but you don't need to say it. You don't need to share it.
Yeah. This guy named Baby Wolverine, aka Arthur. I remember one time we were having some argument over Facebook, and he said, "Son, like, you're trying to come off like you're intelligent. Nobody's ever called you intelligent. Like, you're not smart. Like, I don't know why you're trying to act like this." And I laughed because I was like, no one's ever called me intelligent. And then I realized, oh, for sure. One, I played up my stupidity in the fighting game community because I was a hustler. I needed people to think I was bad at the game.
Sandbagging. Oh man, that's a great feeling.
So then it was like, okay, that's fair. Two, I never really spoke to you people. You have no idea what goes on in my head, who I am, right? So then it's like, it makes sense. But I mean,
but people, tend to fill in the dots. They just fill in the blanks.
And you're a fighting game player. Why would I think you're intelligent? I mean, I'm not mad at it, but I feel like I'm always leaning in that, like just to whatever God has for me, because I don't know. Again, even like education, I'm not hyper formally educated. I went to college at some points. I was taking college classes in elementary, but I tested out of junior high. I tested out of most of high school. Right now I'm in the process of testing out of college. Like I didn't go and do formal education. So almost everything I do is not on paper. Like it just never has been that way. The only way that things happen for me is when doors open up for me. Someone get a chance to encounter me, and then they get to see, like, oh, you're different. Oh, you have these, or you're whatever. You would not know. You wouldn't know.
And so that music really, God, but also the next step was music for you that really filled in that, not obsession hole, but that hole that was like your life.
And right before the music thing happened, or maybe it was right as the music thing happened, I finally got cured of my depression. I had been depressed throughout all the years of fighting games, just my whole life. Since I was a kid, I just had dealt with chronic depression forever. Just melancholy oriented and just a pretty depressed person. And I remember 2016 being the year where I don't need to do anything else. I've done enough. I've had enough accomplishments. I've done it. I'm enough. If I want to try to top something I've already done, I can, but I don't have to. I've done enough. From that came this piece, because I always kept wondering, what's next? How do I push the envelope? What do I pursue next? And then at that point, I just kind of took my hands off. Whatever happens, happens. I'm enough. And I've had that serenity ever since.
It takes a lot of courage to do that.
It took God, because I could never be happy. I could never be happy, bro. No matter what I did, it was always just like, man, well, what's next though? What's the point? You look at all the things that I win. You don't see me celebrating and going ham. You don't. ECT4, you see me get up, and I just literally get up, shake Justin Wong's hand, and I'm just like, okay, like I won. That's it. There's no pop like, yay, wait, who's right? Nothing. Just, okay, that's it. You see the same thing like when I get into top 8 of Evo. I didn't even understand how the tournament worked. They just, as soon as I won my final match to get into top 8, which I was the first person to qualify for Marvel, because I went undefeated up to top 8. And so when I go there, I win the match. And then one of the owners, like one of the runners of Evo, he's like, hey, come with us real quick. And I'm like, okay. So I just start walking with him to the back, and he's like, okay, so you're in top 8 now. We're gonna do an interview. I'm like, oh, I made it to top 8. Oh, okay. And I don't even know, at this point, I don't even create like this distinction in my brain about top 8 versus the rest of the tournament. I'm just like, oh, I'm getting interviewed. This must be important. And so then they're asking me the questions and and like I'm doing this interview, but I didn't know what the freak was going on. I didn't know how brackets worked at all at that point. I genuinely had no freaking concept. So it was just,
just won it.
I'm entering the tournaments and playing it. I was just in my own world, but I just knew how to play the game because I put so much time in. So I just think I'm always just leaning towards whatever whatever God does, whatever God opens up, then I end up going in that direction. And I feel like he opened up the politics stuff. So I still want to do more in there.
That's something I look forward to, honestly.
Yeah. Again, music I always knew was going to be that thing, but I've done so many other things that it was just like, whatever happens, I just feel like I can jump into it. Like that's really what it just boils down to. I just like kind of just follow. One other thing I want to say. I'm terrible at a lot of things, because the things that I do them well, and the things that don't come natural to me, the things that feel awful, I never do. So if I can't do something well, if I don't think that I'm gonna do it really good, I just don't do it at all. And so then as a result, there's a bunch of stuff that I'm really, really, really trash at. But that's life. You just pick it up.
Yes, that's literally how it goes. I was in that transition period. I found like I will be going to school. That's something I decided on. I'd already gone a bit. I'm pretty much about to get my associates, but then I'm gonna go on to actual bachelor's degree. For me, I needed something to fill that void. I wouldn't say I was aimless, but I became a Christian as an adult, like 23, I would say, is when in my mind I was, but then actually going out learning about my faith the years that followed. But before that, it was kind of like when you explained, like, you got off the stage, you just won the tournament, and you weren't really jazzed, like you're just like, all right, great, what's next? That was fine. That feeling was fine for me for some reason for a long time, where it was just for the sake of, like, I felt that feeling when whether I win or lose, I got to play against a great player that like I said earlier, that high level drug, and that was enough. And then when it stopped, it kind of was like, well, what is next? And I was stuck there for a while. And as I found faith, I think that guided me to my decision. I'm going back to school.
Yeah, man, I wish I had the answer even for myself. I mean, I'm at a bit of a crossroads now. Do you know who Arturo Sanchez is?
Sure, I remember the saga.
Okay, when that happened, I decided, I was defending the guy, like trying my best to clear his name.
You like, kind of were on your own there.
100%. I was.
And I remember watching. I was like, you were killing, and you were going so hard, and you were getting a lot of flack from people who were just ready to just crucify the guy.
100%. But man, I'm telling you, and this is I think it's literally part of just the way I was raised. I genuinely believe being part of that cult, it taught me to be able to stand on my own feet regardless of whatever everyone else believes. If you grow up in a world where you think literally, so disgusting to say out loud, literally every person who's not part of this organization is going to hell. They're all wrong. They're all uninformed. That means I am right. I know what's right. And everyone else in the world is wrong. So then if I think that way, then that means now I have to eventually get the confidence that says, I don't care what the world says. I don't care what people, how much they argue against me. I'm right. And these kind of beliefs were reinforced heavily. I remember my mother making this analogy all the time. She put her keys in her pocket. I must have been about 7 years old the first time I remember her doing this. She put her keys in her pocket and she said, I'm holding onto these keys right now. 20 people can argue with me and say, you're not holding those keys. I know I'm holding these keys. Why do I need to prove it to you? What difference does it make how many people say I'm wrong? I know what's right. I know it's true. Internalizing that kind of thought process, okay, I get it. So it doesn't matter what everyone else says, I know, right? It's like she incepted that into all of her children, and I was the youngest, right? And so I feel like having that mentality gave me the strength that no matter what happens, anybody can be arguing against me. Anybody, like I can be confronting like this Arturo thing, where I knew going into it, he had been trending for 5 days in a negative way on Twitter. Everyone had written him off. Right. I can stand against that. I can say, this is the truth. I have the facts and the information, and I don't care if every single person who's tweeting starts hating on me. I'm doing what's right. I know what's true. I don't care. I'm going to say it anyway. And I'm not going to be hurt because you all disagree with me. Because everyone would have told me that that place was wrong and I wouldn't have cared before, right? So I've already learned to stand against everyone. I don't care. I don't need other people's approval or validation to say what I'm saying is right. If it's right, it's right. And I don't care what you think. So then it's like, yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the smoke. I know I'm going to be attacked because I'm defending a very unpopular person right now. I know.
And you're coming at it in an angle where, I'm not to say anything less about a fighting game player, but just people who aren't thinking like you're thinking in that logical consistency way throughout, when we started, it was immediately, it was like, oh, this guy's done. And then as you kept doing it in that way, like you bring him from the politics debating style that people weren't ready for. And I would watch your videos and I would read the comments, similar to like your recent videos, and people just weren't following in that way. And I was like, what you're showing, you're right. You have the receipts. You showed what he did. He paid the people back, or if he didn't, he said he would. And as they were going on, I was like, more and more people, you were more right. As more evidence would come out, you made more videos, you were more right, and more people would be getting on you. It would just keep. It didn't matter what you did. Yeah, and that's what an intense thing. That's why I say I could not do what you do. Like, you're dealing with so much. You're putting your target on your back, especially with politics, and it's an impressive thing. Yeah, I'm glad you're at this.
But there's a reward, because by the time I did, like, I want to say the 4th video is when everyone was just like, oh snap, hey, we were wrong. And then that's when Justin Wong, being the real nigga that he is, Justin Wong is one of the realest niggas in the entire community. You have no idea. You have no idea. How could you be the most popular person in all of fighting games in the United States and have zero controversy? You just got to be that good, that real of a person.
The LeBron
right?
factor. Somehow you managed. No controversy.
Because he never screwed nobody over. He just that's not in him to do. So then because of that, you could be. It's crazy. That's unheard of. It's unheard of. But he really is a real person. And of course,
kind of come from a toxic community.
100%. And how do you have the leader of the most toxic community be such a good guy? It's so unreal. But that's what he did. And once again, in that situation, he was one of the first people to speak up and be like, hey, you know what? Just to be clear, I did an audit of everything that I've ever done, and Arturo didn't do nothing wrong. Right? He's never done anything wrong to me personally. That's what he said. Like, he's always been like, everything has been fair from what I've checked. And from him doing that, then everyone else did it. The Kill Sage did it. All the leaders of the SoCal community did it. Like, just everyone just came forward and was just like, nope, we did an audit. And so from that point on, then he shifted, and then Maturino started trending instead of Arturo Sanchez. The Maturino trend with just
now they gotta show the receipts, and they did not do. I can't remember the specifics, but I remember the first response they had once the tide started turning was not good.
Yep. And then niggas was hating on them even more in all their thread. I was like, oh, I've already done it. So then that's the reward. That's the validation that I got, where I knew, okay, at least now they're seeing the truth. Likewise, even with like the whole Destiny hate train thing, man, I'm conditioned for it. Before we get to that,
I would definitely be. They are really fervent when they want to defend that guy.
Before we get to that, think about me being, at the time, the literal only pad player in all of competitive Marvel. Note to date, no other human being has ever gotten top 8 on a pad in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Well, no, I can't say to date, but up to the game's death, right, in 2010. Because now I think there's this guy named Thriller. He plays on a pad. But before that, you know, that it's not a live community anymore. It's like 30 niggas still playing the game. But I'm saying,
I know they brought back those cabinets. I think did that help with the revival at all? I'm not sure.
Nah, they're still on Dreamcast. It's the same people that they're never gonna quit the game because
right.
Whatever. But my point being, with me, when I was doing it, I was the only person in the world. And so then there was non-stop hate. A one-button dash, he's cheating, he's trash, and it just literally everyone. And it just became a really popular thing to do. And you have to think, again, 1, I'm the only pad player. 2, I'm an outsider. I don't have any like solid relationship with all these people. 3, I've been money matching each of you individually and taking your money, and so you're salty about it. And so now collectively, you already feel some type of way. And then now some of the biggest players and top players in the community are hating, like, yo, this dude he's a scrub, or he's cheating, and so on and so forth. And now I'm popping off because I'm like, you know what I'm saying, I'm the only one by myself, and I know how to stand up against that. So it's like I'm doing all, bro. So I'm telling you, I'm just engineered. This is part of that cult thing. I'm right, you're all wrong. So I don't need your validation. Y'all can tell me, no, you suck. Okay, proof's in the pudding. Money match me. Let me take your money. And then afterwards you can go around and say I suck. But give me that money first though. Pay me and then tell everybody I suck afterwards. I don't care. I don't need your validation. I know what I was. I know what the freak I did in that thing, and the results show it. Now those results aren't going to be in video because the guy, one of the...
That was the era right before they're streaming, right? Maybe you said 2007, that was what, 5 or 6 years before that became regular, especially in the fighting game community. I think we were a little late, kind of late to the party.
And then the guy who did all the recording was this guy named Strider Zero, who was my buddy, and I intentionally would have him only put up videos of me losing, so everyone thinks I suck, and I'm taking hilarious money.
I love sandbag. I love it. I love the idea of it. They don't know until you and then you switch characters too, just to really hit them home.
Bro, I was dedicated to it. I had an obsession with trying to make money from the community and from this game, and the only way I was going to do that is if they all thought I was trash. And so I was doing that over and over and over and over again. It's literally, that was my grift, right? Like, and I was cheating. I was cheating because no one knew I was good. How could you know if you go to side, you're going to look up like me to figure out how good I am, and all of it is me getting washed by randoms. And it's like, okay, yeah, this guy sucks. Like, I remember Demon Heo, he came to the SoCal and we did a 1st to 4 and he beat me. And then I was like, okay, this is my first time like playing him in a set. And I was like, okay, let's run it back. And I ran it back and I watched him. We only put up the one of him beating me. We never even put up the one of me beating him right immediately after. So to this
That's
day,
so funny, but it's so great.
$1 billion bro, I'm telling you, that was my whole game plan. I didn't even care about winning like tournaments. That wasn't my thought. My thought was I'm going to do money matches. I would literally go there, part of this ADD thing. I would
winning the set, that feeling of the set, it's different than like the tournament win is great but the goal is I want to win the whole thing. If you don't win it, it almost feels like, well, I mean, what are the first two? What does that really mean? But that set, like you leave and they leave and we know who was better. We know
100%. And it's a long set, so ain't no arguments no more.
Nope, you can't say anything.
Yeah. And so that was it. I would get there to the venue very early in the morning, like when it opens up. Say, okay, I get there maybe 11 o'clock, and then I sit there and I don't get up to eat. I don't get up to use the bathroom, and I'm just in that venue from 11 until like closing. Literally not eat a single bite from 11 to closing. And so then now I've just sat at a chair, or if no one's in this section anymore trying to money match me, I get up and I walk to another area where I see people playing. Hey, you want to play for 50? You want to play for 40? Whatever. And I'm just doing that. That is literally the only thing that I do. I don't care about the actual tournament. Do you know that I never registered for an Evo in advance?
Oh, you are the on the day guy?
And you know
that's so stressful.
You're not allowed to register on the day. They closed off registrations. I had to go to Mr. Wizard and I would pay him $100 out of my pocket, hand him $100 bill, and then he'd say, okay, then I'll put you in the bracket. That's how I got into the tournament. Every year. I'm not kidding you. Because the tournament wasn't the goal. Even if Mr. Wizard would have just said no, it'd be like, okay, then I'm just gonna go money match, and that'll be the end of that'll be Evo for 2007 Evo. I did not register in advance. I didn't care about the tournament. I went for money matches.
Yeah, so you weren't even stressed about the brackets if they just put you in something crazy.
No, I didn't.
Or put you with someone. Oh yeah, and you said you were on your own. You went on your own, so there was no one that you knew that would have been like, oh, yeah, well, I'm playing my guy. Yeah, 2 matches in.
100%. I remember, dude. I'll never forget it. I played against this dude named Mad Blueface and I beat him. I swear I had literally never heard his name. Had no idea who he was. And it's crazy because he's a Magneto player. He played Magneto Sentinel Commando. Very unorthodox team. I watched him. And afterwards, they came up to me. They ran up to my homeboy Finesse and was like, yo, Fanatiq just beat Mad Blueface. And he was like, oh, who's that? And Finesse is worse than me as far as knowing the community and knowing fighting it. So he didn't know. I didn't know this person. And they're just like, okay, so I just beat a person. I didn't know this guy's a top player. I don't know that this is a name. And like, this is like getting towards top 8. And I guess other people had been watching the bracket and it seemed like if Fanatiq wins these many matches, he's going to be top 8. And I'm just like, I'm just playing another match. This is just another person. I beat another person. Okay, I don't know how many people I got to go. I've not seen the bracket in any capacity. I have no idea who my next opponent is. I have no idea who the last opponent is. I didn't know Mad Blueface what name when I beat him. They had to come up to me afterwards and tell me like Finesse did. Hey, they just said you just beat Mad Blueface. They was all excited. And I was like, oh, is that the guy? Okay. I don't know him. I don't even know why he's relevant. He could just be a random for I don't know. But again, I was just there. I'm just so happened to be in the tournament. I was there to money match. Yeah, it's crazy, and it just so worked out. I think God is like I said, I think I'm really blessed with that synthesis thing because it is so easy for me to put together all these different pieces of information, bring it to that victory.
And Marvel's such a fast game, like it's insane.
Yeah, it's the best. It is one of the. I think Marvel 2 is probably my favorite fighting game. I think, actually, to be honest with you, my actual favorite is Marvel Infinite. That's a whole nother conversation.
Really?
Oh yeah,
controversial
for sure. But I think Infinite is literally the best Marvel game.
Wow.
Yeah, it doesn't even make any sense.
Why didn't it? I'm like I said, I'm not a Marvel fan. Why didn't Infinite keep that pace that 3 was building?
Oh, it's really easy. Okay, anytime any fighting game comes out, there's a whole group of people that refuse to play that game.
Right.
So Street Fighter 2 kept evolving, right? Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Street Fighter, Super Street Fighter 2, right? Then Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Those are all extensions of the exact same engine, exact same game. Okay. When Street Fighter 2 switched over to Street Fighter 3, almost the entire community rejected it. Street Fighter 3 was a colossal failure within the United States.
Really, why does it look back so fondly now? Because that's way before my era, so I have no idea. I just know people seem to love it now. I guess it's a nostalgia thing.
Because midway through that game, after it had failed in all of the arcades in the United States and it was doing terribly, Japan loved that game. And it was humongous. A guy named Shogo, who used to be part of this thing called Dinjin Video, he ended up bringing these things called Ranbats, which were a Japanese creation, which is ranking battles, which is where you do like series of tournaments and then like you accumulate points until the final winner is decided. He came up with Ranbats and brought Ranbats to the United States. Once he brought the Ranbats to the United States, then people started competing in that game, and it eventually got like this really big revival where it became like the thing. And US was always late to the game, like by several years. Then we became like, oh, Third Strike is like a super viable thing. And then it became like really popular. But initially it failed because none of the Turbo players wanted to switch over to Street Fighter 3. So years into Street Fighter 3, the Turbo players were still competitively playing Turbo. That was their primary game, and CVS and stuff, right? They did not really like Street Fighter 3. That happens every time. When Street Fighter 4 came out, most of the Third Strike players did not switch over to Street Fighter 4. They didn't like it and they didn't want to play it. So the vast majority of top players from Street Fighter 3 did not switch over to Street Fighter 4. Now, a person of a lesser brain is going to probably say, okay, well, we do have a lot of people switched over. Ricky Ortiz switched over, Justin Wong switched over, Combo Fiend switched over. So there were a lot of players. That saying that there were some is not the majority. The vast majority of top players that from Third Strike did not switch over to Street Fighter 4. Fortunately, Street Fighter 4 was one of the biggest selling. It was the biggest selling fighting game at the time, and when that happened, it brought on an entire new renaissance or new community, right? Like just this overwhelming influx of brand new players. At the same exact time as Street Fighter 4 dropped, GameStop had these new tournaments where they did a tournament series for the game so everyone who was going to GameStop, which was like the biggest video game retailer in the world at the time, everyone that was going there to get the game were also saying, hey, there's Street Fighter 4 tournaments, and so people were entering. And so before long, now every local GameStop is having these things until you eventually have this like whatever meeting where you eventually was Justin Wong versus Daigo in the grand finals for Street Fighter 4. So the game did really, really well, and even though those Third Strike players weren't there and weren't going to switch over, most of them they just the new players played it, so then it didn't matter, right? Similarly, Marvel 2 dies, or Marvel 3 comes out. The vast majority of Marvel 2 top players did not switch over to Marvel 3. They didn't. Like some of them played it like kind of a little bit, but didn't make it like really into a thing. Sumighty, he played Marvel 3 a little bit, but then he just didn't like fully commit to the game and just kind of like died out of it, right? Genghis played. It's another top player, but then he played a little bit and then he just kind of died out of it. I'd switched over, obviously, but there was a bunch of people who only still wanted to play Marvel 2. Some losers still to this day never gave it up. But
that's a widespread, at least in the US thing for FGC, because this happened. Oh, you're saying that like this is Soul Calibur. This is Soul Calibur. There's still people to this day. Soul Calibur 2 and everything else after that is trash. I'm not playing it. I'm not touching it.
There will always be that. And then the best thing though is you got to think Marvel 3 comes out beginning of 2011, and so then at this point now we had this brand new influx of all these new players in 2009, right? We called them the 09ers. So all those players, some of them switch over when Marvel 3 comes out, and they're like, oh, we're gonna try this new Marvel game because it's a brand new community, not the same old Vanguard, right? So then now it doesn't matter that most of the old Marvel 2 heads aren't going to play it. All the new people are playing it. So the vast majority of top players for Marvel 3 were not top players in Marvel 2. Now, of course, you can say Justin Wong. That's another example. Yes, he did switch over. He played everything. And you'll find that of the names that switched over, the vast majority of them are Renaissance niggas. Justin Wong is a Renaissance man. That dude played Third Strike, CVS 2, Tekken, he played every one of those games at the top level. He is literally the best fighting game player of all time in the United States, without a doubt.
I don't think that's contested. Right. I don't think it is.
If you are arguing against it, you don't have a brain. So, okay, he doesn't count, obviously. Who was another one of those top players of all games, in fighting games of all time? Combo Fiend. Literally the best CVS 2 player in the country at one point. Literally one of the top Marvel players in the world at one point. Literally one of the best Third Strike players in the world at one point. So then it's like, okay, so another one of them niggas that just plays all things. Ricky Ortiz, literally one of the best fighting games, was a pioneer in Marvel 2, one of the best Marvel 2 Third Strike players, one of the best CVS 2, but we know that name. You see him in top 8 in every game. So it's like, okay, those people all switched over. But the other people who weren't like just Renaissance niggas, they didn't switch over. They just stayed in whatever game they were comfortable in. So
now, why do you think that is, and why is it such a broad FGC trend? Because it happened to me. I'm not gonna say it. That same thing, like I started in 4, then I started competing in 5, and then 6 came out. By that time, I was like, all right, 6 feels like something else. It feels like they're going in a direction, which is great. This seems like when it first started, if not for COVID, it would have taken off, and that would have been wonderful to see, but it wasn't for me. So what is that? What's going on there? Seems like a US trend.
Yeah, it's that when a new thing comes out, people want more of the exact same. They because you've put all of your energy and competitive energy into the thing that you've already done.
Right.
So like you still have goals and ambitions for what you want to do in the thing that you're doing, right? Like I want to be whatever I still want to do stuff in Marvel 2. I still want to do whatever, so on and so forth, right? So then if you have that mentality, when Marvel 3 comes out, it's like, I'm starting over from the beginning now. And I never got to do that thing so then of course, then you're gonna stay with it. People don't like change as much. They want to stay with the thing that they're comfortable in, that they've already put in the investment to. They don't want to start over. Normally, what ends up happening is a brand new community comes in and takes up this new thing, and then the other people go, well, I mean, it's popular enough. I'll play it for the money. And then they play it, and then before long, now they're actually into it. That's what happens. What happens if there's no influx of new players?
That's game over.
That's it. Is
that what happened to Infinite?
Absolutely. Because the Marvel 3 players did exactly the same thing that the Marvel 2 players did, right? Marvel 2 players, remember, the vast majority of them did not switch over to Infinite. They didn't like it. I mean, to Marvel 3, they didn't like it. Marvel 3 players, the vast majority of those players did not like Infinite at all. They're like,
but there was no influx of new to replace, bring the hype.
Nope. So then the game just dies because these old niggas ain't gonna play it. And so then it's like, okay, and there's no new niggas to play it. So then who's gonna play the game? It just dies. Here's the crazy thing.
It's a shame because Marvel's like in my mind, when I think of 2 games, Street Fighter and Marvel, that's FGC in my mind when I think about it.
1,000,000,000%. Do you know the vast majority of Marvel 2 heads love Infinite?
Really? So, you were saying that. You said that was the controversial. That's your favorite Marvel game.
It is literally my favorite. I think it's the best Marvel game that was ever made. Josh 360, like one of the best Marvel 2 players, like at the end of that era. He's like, yeah, that Marvel Infinite is like OD. Another guy, Bill Wellman, loved Marvel Infinite. Clockwork loved Marvel Infinite. Actually thought it was a really good game. Justin Wong, I mean, I've heard from inside said that he doesn't like Infinite, but he publicly had said that, yeah, he liked that game. He thought it was actually godlike. The Marvel 2 heads like the game because it is the thing that Marvel 3 is an abomination in my opinion, or an anomaly, if you will. Okay, it is not Marvel. Like I one day created a list of all of these things that were continuous throughout like Marvel 2, like from the verse series as a whole, like from X-Men vs Street Fighter to Marvel Superheroes vs Street Fighter versus Marvel vs Capcom, Marvel vs Capcom 2, Marvel Infinite. That is 5 different games that all have these things, and then Marvel 3 is an outlier to all of them. I remember I was like, one of my brother inside, he was like picking up Marvel 2, and like he was trying to do this thing and it wasn't working, and he was like, wait, why isn't it working? And I was like, oh, it's causing flying screen. Yeah, that's why it won't work. And he was just like, what's that? I'm like, no, it's causing flying screen. And I assumed he knew what flying screen was, and he's just like, yeah, I don't get, like, no, what's that? I don't understand. And I'm like, oh yeah, flying screen is this thing. It's a property that's been put in the game since like forever. That it's a combo ender. Once you do certain, like you have certain properties, you hit them with the fierce attack or whatever, and the screen flies with the person, and you're disabled from doing any special moves until the person recovers. That's flying screen. That doesn't exist in Marvel 3. It exists in Marvel vs. Capcom. It exists in Marvel Super vs. Street Fighter. It exists in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but it does not exist in Marvel 3. So then if your primary game is Marvel 3, like this just feels like, wait, why the freak, why can't I do a super right here? This is stupid. Another example of that, obviously they kept that out, by the way. It doesn't exist in Marvel, it doesn't exist in Marvel Infinite. There are some things that are flying screen-esque that like that it has the properties of, but you can still get around a lot of those restrictions. When it comes to, so for us who played the Verse series, not just Marvel 3, if we've been playing the Verse series forever, this is just like, oh, this feels like a logical next step in the evolution of this series. Whereas Marvel 3 is a complete deviation. Like proximity guard. Do you know what that is?
No, the 2D mechanics still to this day confound me.
Okay.
It just sounds like like 3D, the same concepts, like punish this, you're at advantage here. This situation, maybe this throw will put them at the wall. So obviously, they're going to use it. Like things like that. That transfers over, but there's so much, especially mechanically, that is just It's like another world almost.
Okay, so proximity guard is basically when you're blocking, if you're holding back to block, right? And someone throws out a move and you're like within a certain range or whatever, like your character will block even though the move is not physically touching, right? Like just if whatever, okay? That's like proximity guard. So the Verse series has it. If someone throws out an attack and you're moving backwards, you're just gonna block it. Like your character goes into blocking animation, even if the attack isn't gonna physically hit you. Marvel 3 doesn't have that. If someone does a move that like that you're not in range to block, like it doesn't matter, like you're not gonna block. So for instance, okay, a perfect example of this would be like in Marvel, someone could be standing full screen and just pressing jab over and over again. If you're pressing back, your character will just keep going in the block, even though you're literally on the opposite end of the screen, nowhere near. Your character will keep going in the block. In Marvel 3, that doesn't exist. Your character can back up. You can backdash freely while you're blocking. Like while you're holding back, even if they're that's so what we had to learn to do was when you want to get away from someone, you don't just dash back on the ground, you super jump and then air dash down back. So then that way you're still moving backwards. Or if like your sentinel, you go into fly and you fly backwards because you can't block while you're in fly. So you have to find ways.
And there's a lot of player expression in that.
Yes.
Like some people are super fast with that, some are not. Some use it in unique ways. Like that's the thing. I think in Tekken 8 right now, people are complaining like there's so much lost from like player expression, and that's. I mean, it's a risky endeavor. Like I get, like you want to bring in the influx of new guys, but the old, that I don't like losing that stuff.
100%, because you just ruin them. But I get why they do it. My whole point being that proximity guard, Marvel 3 players got into Marvel 2 and I'm like, why the frick? It's restricting my movement. I can't do what I want to do. And it's like, this is the way the entire series has been for years. Like for over a decade, excuse me. For like about 2 decades, this is what the games have been. It's just the one game that you started on wasn't that. And they wanted Marvel 3.5. They wanted Marvel Infinite to basically be like an extension of Marvel 3. And instead, it was back to like all of these concepts that were rooted in the Verse series as a whole that were different than the abomination of Marvel 3. So then because of that, they obviously didn't like the game. So then when the game, they're just like, oh, we don't like this game. It's not what I wanted. And normally when all that happens, there's enough other players to just say, okay, fine, then we'll keep it up, right? Like Third Strike players didn't play, but we got a bunch of new, Street Fighter 2 players don't want to play Third Strike, but eventually we got a bunch of new people that weren't Street Fighter 2 heads. I think the best player in the world in that game was not like Alex Valle or Watson, who were like running or Super Street Fighter Turbo. It was a new guy named Pyro Lee. All these new niggas. Same with Marvel 3. Chris G wasn't no big Marvel 2 head, and now he's like the best Marvel 3 player in the world. There's always these new niggas, and if the new niggas will keep it up, then it's like, okay, yeah, either you come along or the game will just go on without you. It didn't matter if Sumadi never had any significance. It didn't matter. We got new people. We got Ray Ray, right? Who needs a Sumadi? We got Ray Ray. Who needs a Genghis? We got freaking Inside. Who needs? Whoever. There was just always a new person to replace any old person. That's what you need. If there's no influx of new players and the regular niggas just decide we're not playing this game, then the game died. If Street Fighter 4 didn't have all the new people, Street Fighter 4 would have died. I can find you posts of Alex Valle, Justin Wong. I'm thinking who Combo Fiend, all of them old heads hating Street Fighter 4 when it came out. Alex Valle despised the game. Daigo,
which is so crazy here in hindsight.
And it took him a while, and then they go, you know what? It's starting to wear on me now. Now I see where the high level is. I see it. Originally, they were like, this game is really bad. We don't like it. It's trash. That's the way of things.